When I was a child, I always heard many Christians talk about doing many days of fasting so God would grant them their mundane requests. When I became a teenager, I wondered whether this was the right reason to fast. John the Baptist was in the wilderness, feeding on locusts and wild honey, before he began his ministry. Jesus fasted 40 days in the wilderness before beginning his public ministry. It looked more like fasting was more apt as a spiritual activity that prepared you for a spiritual life rather than acquiring material wealth, which I can appreciate. If Jesus suggested that we should sell our material goods, give the money from the sale to the poor, then follow him, and that we should store up treasure in heaven where moth cannot destroy it, rather than acquire the world's riches, and if he asked what it would profit a man to gain the whole world and then lose their soul at the end of their lives, I would like clarification from pastors who recommend fasting to their members as a means to gain material wealth and follow Jesus, as a means to store up treasure on earth, that it is a sign that God is with them by living lavish lifestyles. Having that mindset would make another teaching of Jesus challenging to follow. The teaching that if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off, and if your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out. For it is better to enter heaven with one hand and one eye than to have the entire body cast into hell. We know that many oppress others with their wealth and would otherwise be unable to do this if they did not have riches. It is also challenging to have these people depart from their wealth if giving up their wealth would draw them closer to God. I am not suggesting that this is true for everybody who becomes rich, because there are people who draw closer to God when they get wealthier. We don't hear about them so often. I would love to be rich someday, but deep in my heart, I know that I don't need to be a billionaire to live a content life. Therefore, if you want to be wealthy, go for it. But I would add a clause to reconsider if you are aware that you have a flaw in being extravagant. Your wealth might probably not serve you well spiritually. This will be tough for you to accept, and if that is the case, then this is a point you can exploit this Lenten season as you think of what you can use to transform your spiritual life while fasting. You can fast from food, abstain from habits, and mortify your flesh in both cases to train the body to detach from mundane things. The more we efficiently detach from mundane things, the easier it is to yearn for heavenly things. When I was 19 years old, I reluctantly started training in karate, but I willingly continued it a few minutes after joining the class. The drills were overwhelming for my body, but I realized that the nature of the drills had a profound positive effect on my body and how I carried it. With this realization, I began looking up ways to improve independently without my instructor's input. I realized shortly that following an eating pattern boosted the power, speed, energy, and strength that went into my kicking and punching. While the exercise drills gave my body muscle memory, where I could punch a certain way without overthinking, how I ate food enabled my body to take all the nutrients it needed and discard what it didn't need efficiently. Now there was a catch. The food had to be eaten at specific times in the day according to the class they belonged. I could list these foods to you, but if you ate them how you wished, you would get tired with no energy, power, or speed. This is not magic, it is science. Start the day off light with light meals and end the day with heavy meals. In doing so, the body has more energy to work with. Then the mind gets sharper and your intuition gets a boost as long as you keep away from particular types of food and eat what is right for your body. Otherwise, your mind, body, and even your spirit will suffer consequences, especially in old age. There came a time when I broke off from the cycle of my new eating pattern, and I immediately took ill in less than 24 hours. This disruption of a healthy habit from returning to a bad habit caused my body system to crash. This made it easy for me to relate my relapse to the consequences of our first parents' disobedience in the Garden of Eden. God commanded Adam and Eve to eat of every tree except the tree of knowledge. They disobeyed, ate the fruits, and brought death into their lives. We can say that God told them to abstain from the tree of knowledge. Perhaps He would let them eat its fruit at a time much later, just like I used to eat particular foods only at a later time in the day. But this is something we can never know until we meet God and ask Him, because I have to wonder still why the tree was there if they were not supposed to eat of it at any time, either in the present or in the future. In the same way, we still have to abstain from particular types of food, depending on our bodies, and if we disobey our doctor, the consequences could be fatal. Also, suppose particular habits must be avoided to improve our relationship with God. We know it is tough to break old habits. In that case, when we abstain from those activities during Lent, returning to those habits on Easter Sunday is counterproductive. Instead, we should pray to persist in avoiding those habits until they are broken and we develop good habits. This is what spiritual growth should be like. As you continue in this season of Lent, I wish you good luck in your spiritual journey. This is the season when temptations to commit different kinds of sins I have had control over before Lent get more intense for me. I'm sure there is a chance this is the case for you too, and if you are like me, I find it frustrating. But I must remind myself that those trials are opportunities, thanks be to God, to improve my spiritual life. I hope this suggestion will be helpful to you too. Also, if you need a spiritual advisor, that will be great. One more thing that will also be a great activity to help is meditating with undivided attention on each station of the Stations of the Cross. See what Jesus had to go through on the road to Calvary. Do this through the eyes of Mary, His mother. Do it through the lens of trials you are going through now, and you will remember during your times of trials and frustration that Jesus went through worse. Remember also that He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light."